I get it, you've been scrolling through endless lists of Equatorial mounts, watching the same hype videos, and you're still not sure whether you should drop a few $100 on something that could end up gathering dust in the garage. You're probably thinking about the time you spent on your last hobby gear purchase, the excitement of unboxing, and then the frustration when the setup didn't quite live up to the promises. If you're on the fence about the Skywatcher EQ6 or GoTo SyncScan, let's walk through what it actually feels like to bring this thing out of the box, set it up for a night of deep sky imaging, and decide whether it's worth the cash. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the EQ6R sits in a class of mounts that aim to bridge the gap between starter gear and the more serious, pricey rigs you see on professional forums. The biggest worry most newcomers have is stability. You've probably heard horror stories of shaky frames ruining long exposures, or a mount that can't handle the weight of a decent 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain. The good news is the EQ6R's steel tripod and the solid accessory tray are built to take up to 44 pounds of payload. In plain terms, that means you can safely pair it with a 10-inch SCT, a hefty apochromatic refractor, or even add a camera, field rotator, and guide scope without constantly fearing a wobble. For anyone who's already outgrown a tabletop Dobsonian or a lightweight Altaz mount, this is the first real upgrade that can actually carry the gear you're likely to add as you chase fainter galaxies. Now, let's talk about the day-to-day usability. The SyncScan hand controller is the brain of the system, housing a database of more than 42,900 deep sky objects. When you power up, you can pick Galaxy M31 or Orion Nebula and the mount will slew you there automatically. The 2-axis tracking is calibrated for sidereal, lunar, and solar rates, which is a practical win if you ever dabble in solar work or want to capture the moon without smearing. In practice, once the mount is polar aligned, which, thanks to the built-in polar scope and a fairly straightforward alignment routine, takes about 1,015 minutes even for a beginner, the tracking stays dead steady for the duration of a typical 5-minute exposure. I tried a 10-second planetary video run, and the star field held its shape with virtually no drift. The same mount held a 3-minute deep sky frame on a 10-inch SCT with only a tiny correction needed from a guiding software. That kind of reliability is where the value beyond the specs really shows up. You spend less time babysitting the mount and more time actually collecting data. But the EQ6R isn't a magic wand. One hidden trade-off is its size and weight. The steel tripod means you're looking at a unit that weighs roughly 38 pounds before you add any optics. That's great for stability, but it also means you need a decent car trunk and a little muscle to lift it onto a rooftop or a backyard pier. If you're a city dweller with only a balcony and limited storage, this might feel like a commitment you're not ready for. The setup also requires a stable, level surface. On uneven ground you'll need to invest in a portable pier or a concrete pad, which adds both cost and logistics. For those who love to pack light and travel to dark sites, a lighter fork-mounted Altaz or a carbon fiber Equatorial might be a smarter choice. Another practical consideration is the learning curve. The SyncScan controller is feature-rich, which is fantastic once you know where everything lives, but the menu can be intimidating at first. There's a slew of options for tracking rates, backlash compensation, and custom object entry. I found that spending an hour just playing with the controller before the first night out saved me from a couple of missteps during actual imaging. If you're the type who prefers plug-and-play with minimal tinkering, you might feel a little overwhelmed. However, the community around Skywatcher is pretty active, and there are plenty of tutorial videos that walk you through the alignment and go-to process step by step. Who should actually buy the EQ6R? If you're an intermediate astrophotographer who already has a decent telescope and wants to step into longer exposures, wider fields, or perhaps start experimenting with tracking satellites or planetary videos, this mount hits a sweet spot. Its high payload means you won't outgrow it quickly, and the precise tracking reduces the need for heavy post-processing correction. It also works well for serious visual observers who want smooth motion across the sky. The 2-axis design eliminates the jumps you sometimes notice with Altaz units when following a planet. Who should skip it? If you're a casual backyard stargazer who only looks through a small refractor a few times a month, the EQ6R is overkill. A simple Altaz mount will get you there for a fraction of the price and weight. Likewise, if you're planning on backpacking to remote sites with a 50-pound bag, the steel construction will become a burden. In those scenarios,